Hey everyone, it's Leanne here. Welcome to another video at my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how I created my Father's Day card using the Dad and Me Lawn Fawn stamp set. This is actually a Father's Day card for my grandfather. So to begin, I have cut out the moose, and the baby moose and the adult moose, and then a little fish as well. And I've just positioned those on the card where I think I'd like those to be. Just a note too, I have a separate video showing how I colored these objects with Copic colors. Copic sketch markers, and I will link that in the video as well as put it in the video description below if you'd like to watch that after. So for the background, I've decided to do silhouettes of birch trees. What I'm going to use for the silhouette masking is Post-it tape. Post-it tape is sticky all the way across the back, so it'll create a nice seal when I put this on the back of the card to create a mask. So I found a picture on Google Images of some birch trees, and I'm just using that as a guide to draw out the shapes for my silhouettes. So just creating sort of rough outlines. They don't have to be perfect. In fact, the rougher they look, the more real they look. So I'm just tracing those. And then once I have those ready, I will transfer those here to my cutting mat. And I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to trim those out. And again, I'm using the pencil marks as a guide, but they don't have to be exact. So I'm just using it as a guide and roughly cutting where I drew those lines. And as I'm trimming these, I'm making sure to wiggle my knife a little bit so I get a little bit of the rough edges, and it's not a nice smooth cut, but more rough like a tree might be. One thing to keep in mind too is when you're working in groups of elements, it's best to use odd numbers. Odd numbers create contrast in design, whereas if you have even numbers, then they create equal groups of items and it becomes divided contrast. So it's best to work in odd numbers, and so here I've decided to use 3 birch trees for my background. Once I have those all cut out, I'm going to lay those on the card and position them on the background where I feel that I want them to be. Now for the birch trees, I want to make sure that they all hit the top of the card so that they feel like they're growing up and high, that the woods are bigger and taller than my card. And then I'm going to be showing the forest floor. So I want the base of the birch trees to be a little uneven so you feel like there's depth and it's showing different levels of the forest. So I'm just positioning those out, and then once I have those in place, I'm going to take some ink and some daubers and do some blending. Now I'm laying this strip of tape down to create my horizon line, and this is where I'm going to break between the sky and the grass. So to begin, I've taken my lightest blue stamp pad, which is Robin's Egg in the color box set, and I'm just creating a light wash of blue to create the sky. When I'm blending, I'll do little circles, rubbing it around so it doesn't create streaks, and then just trying to blend that out as much as I can so it creates an even application. Here I decided to lift the horizon line tape a bit just to get underneath that and create more blending. Now with the mask, you'll want to be sure that if you're working around the mask, you blend upwards so that you're not rubbing against the edges and taking the chance that it might lift off the paper. To continue the sky, I'm using a darker color at the higher part of the sky, and this one is called Surf from Colorbox. So I'm just putting that in to intensify the sky a little bit more. I want the sky to be darker near the top, whereas at the horizon line it would be lighter. So once I have all my color laid down, I'm going to go back in with the dauber from my Robin's Egg color, which is my lighter blue, and just blend it all out. Blend the colors in together, any edges or harsh edges that I find, just try to blend those out a little bit more. And now I'm going to begin on the forest floor. So I'm taking this green color, which is called moss green, and I want to create the darkest part at the horizon line and work down to a lighter color at the bottom of the card. So I'm putting on a little bit more of this color because I have a bigger patch of grass to cover, but I am going to blend that out where it gets lighter towards the bottom. And again, as I'm working on this, I want to make sure that when I'm going around the mask for the birch trees, that I'm going in the direction of the tape or the direction of the mask, so I'm running my dauber down so it doesn't hit the edges and run the risk that it might get underneath the masking tape and mess up that silhouette. So when I think I have this, I'm just going to take a final look and blend a little bit more any edges that I see. I could pretty much blend this constantly. I could fuss over it forever. But I've decided that this is pretty good. And so I'm peeling off the masking tape now, and you can start to see how the background is taking shape. So I'm very carefully peeling off the birch tree silhouettes. Now these don't look too much like birch trees yet, just regular trees, but we'll fix that shortly. As well too, something to keep in mind is with the blending ink, it doesn't dry as quickly as typical ink does. So you really have to make sure that it's nice and dry. And I'm just going back in and rubbing a little bit more that was underneath the horizon line tape that I put down. And now I'm just placing my elements to make sure that they're where I want them to go. As I'm placing them down as well, I'm considering where I want my sentiment to be. So for this, I'm also going to put a little river or a lake coming, I guess it would be a pond or a stream, I guess, coming out from behind one of the birch trees where the fish is coming out of. So I've created that here, you can see as I laid that down. And I have that sort of position where I'd like. As well too, to create the depth with the bottom of the birch trees, I took, and you may have noticed, I took the moss green dauber, and I just went in and softened the bottom of the trees so they blended more into the grass. So I put some two-way tape on the fisherman hat and adhered that to my little moose. And then I took foam tape and put on the back of my moose, and I'm putting him on the card first. I want to make sure that when I position him, he breaks the horizon line, so he's not under the line or over the line, but he's breaking the line. So it kind of pulls the two elements together, because right now we have a divided top half and a bottom half background, and with him sitting in the middle, it kind of just marries those elements together a little bit better. So here I have the stream, and it's just peeking out from behind one of the birch trees, and I have a little fish popping out of the water. So now I've laid down my stamps, sort of laying out how I want my sentiment to be. I've decided to use the "Your jokes are always amusing," and I want to do a double line for that. I want to stack those to create a better fill in that empty space that I have on the card. So I did a test stamp to see how I like those, and I want to do a right alignment. So here I did a test, and I thought that worked out pretty well. So that's what I decided to do for my layout for the card. So I'm just stamping that sentiment in place. And it's always nerving when you try to do a double line sentiment to get them straight, but it worked, so I was pretty happy with that. And here I just tested on my silhouettes creating birch lines for my tree. So I took a black Copic marker, and normally when you're drawing birch trees and you're doing a silhouette, the edges, the little black parts coming in, they look like wedges, or triangles on their side. So the longer edge of the triangle is on the outside edge of the tree, and as you get towards the center of the tree, it comes to a point. So kind of keeping that shape in mind, I roughly drew in some lines, and kind of created the birch effect. Now, I didn't make those shapes perfect. I wanted them to look rough and organic and natural. So I just tried to loosely make that shape, but just rough squiggles along the edges to create the birch tree and those marks on the tree. Once I was done, I turned my card upside down because I'd already put my elements on the card, so I just wanted to tuck some birch tree squiggles underneath the foam shapes that were lifted up off the page a little bit. And then I went in with my micron liner and just touched up the bottom of my grandpa stamp set. It didn't quite stamp fully, so I just wanted to touch up those edges there. When I had this done, I felt like the card wasn't grounded, like it was missing something. So I took the grass from the Dad and Me stamp set as well, and using that same green color, I decided to stamp grass across the bottom just to kind of ground the card. And there you have it. That's my card. To finish this off, I also added a wink of Stella to the fish and the little river coming out, along with the band, the gold band on the hat. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I do have another Father's Day card coming soon, and I will post that shortly. If you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe so you're notified the next time I post a video. Thanks so much for watching.